We're now halfway through the year, so it seems like a good time to look at what we've had released, both hardware and software, as well as a look forward to future games and headsets. Let's start with hardware. This is shaping up to be a pretty big year for hardware. PSVR 2 launched in February, and overall seems to be a solid headset with some minor issues like a smaller than ideal sweet spot on the lenses, so you really have to make sure that your eyes are in the centre, otherwise things are blurry. And some people have said it isn't comfortable, and a lot of people have said it is. It's got some really desirable features like HDR screens, built-in eye tracking, and great haptics in the controllers and the headset. I still haven't had the chance to try one yet, unfortunately. I'm still waiting for a few more exclusive PSVR 2 games I can't play on PC for me to justify the cost. I'll talk about games later. The Pimax Crystal launched this year, and some people are starting to get their units. It's too early to say how good the headset is yet, but it boasts the highest resolution consumer headset yet, with 5760 by 2880 pixels, using mini LED panels that have local dimming, allowing for deeper blacks and colours. Unlike other Pimax headsets, this one isn't pushing the boundaries of field of view, with a similar field of view as the Valve Index. The headset can connect to a PC, but also it's got a Snapdragon processor just like the Quest 2, so it's capable of standalone wireless VR, and it's got its own inside-out tracking and controllers that look like direct copies of the Quest 2. It's got eye tracking and some much improved software for setting up compared to previous Pimax headsets. From what I'm hearing, it's got amazing clarity, the best on the market, but the headset is heavy, it drains the battery even when plugged into a PC, and the tracking on the controllers could be better. It's also extremely expensive at nearly $1,600. The Big Screen Beyond headset got announced and is shipping later this year. This is a PC VR headset that uses Steam VR base stations and Valve Index controllers, so it's a natural fit for Index owners looking for an upgrade. The big selling point of this one is how small and light it is. You have to have a custom face gasket made just for your face to give the best possible comfort. It uses pancake lenses for great edge-to-edge clarity and a massive sweet spot. It's got OLED displays, so should have great colour levels on blacks. The headset is tiny and the lightest consumer VR headset ever made, which is massively appealing. It's still in development, and recently it had an update improving the field of view closer to the Valve Index. It's very expensive at $1,000, and don't forget that's just for the headset. You need base stations and controllers, and it doesn't come with any headphones, so you either need to use your own or pay an extra $100 for their audio solution. This is definitely for the hardcore enthusiast. The Quest 3 got announced just before the Meta Gaming Showcase, and it will have an upgraded processor with over twice the power. It's got controllers that don't have the tracking rings on, as they use AI and the built-in cameras on the headset to track their position. It has a high-resolution display, pancake lenses, a depth sensor, and high-resolution colour cameras, all aimed at giving great mixed reality experiences with colour pass-through. It will start at $499 and launches later this year. It's good to see a more powerful Quest so that developers have more power to play with, but the Quest 2 will remain on sale for at least another year, so don't expect it to impact VR games that much until we start to see Quest 3 exclusive games that don't work on the Quest 2. Last, we have the big reveal of Apple's Vision Pro. Apple never used VR or AR with a focus on calling it spatial computing. Their big emphasis was on using it for productivity and consuming media like TV shows or watching movies on a massive screen. It doesn't have any controllers and is fully reliant on hand tracking, and Apple said that they've got no plans of releasing any controllers for it in the future, so it isn't really a VR gaming device, even though some people are still hoping they can use it as one. Its big thing is the extremely high resolution screen, which will be around 3400 by 3400 pixels, and high quality colour pass-through for mixed reality. This is an AR headset first, VR headset last. There's a knob on the top which lets you dial in the real world and the virtual environment, and they showed a use case of being on a plane and dialing out the real world to relax and watch a movie. Talking of looking like a knob, they also have a screen on the front which can project your eyes, so when someone is talking to you, they know when you're looking at them and can see you. This is massively expensive at $3,500, and it's hard for me to care about it much because of the price and the fact it isn't really a VR gaming device. Not everything has to be for me, and I'm okay with that. How it's going to affect the VR industry is unknown right now, and it's still going to take years before we get a version that's affordable for the masses. So let's talk about games. The things that we need to actually make use of these expensive pieces of hardware, and this year it's been pretty good so far, with lots more to come. This isn't going to be every game that's released, just the ones that caught my eye, so if you think I missed any, let me know in the comments. In February, we had District Steel on PC, and it's one of my favourite VR games from this year so far. It's got really satisfying gameplay, with lots of rocket boosting into the air, activating slow motion and blasting robots. It's still early access, and it's getting more updates and content in the future, but I'll happily jump back into it and play the entire thing again with the new stuff when it's finished. The Light Brigade is available for all platforms, and is a roguelike shooter with a distinctive art style. The gunplay is good, but I personally found the movement way too slow, and it heavily relies on teleport, which I'm not a fan of. I also don't really like roguelites, so it's not my sort of game overall, but it does have positive reviews from the people who have put some time into it. In March, we had Ghost of Tabor on PC and Quest. This is a hardcore PvP and PvE, very similar to Escape from Tarkov. You have to do runs with both bots and human players in the level, and you've got to try and get loot and extract from the map without getting killed. Again, it's not my sort of game personally, but a lot of people really enjoy this game. Saints and Sinners 2 released for PC and PSVR, and it's already available on the Quest. I do like this game. I enjoyed the first game, but it's very much more of the same. It includes the same locations as the first game. There are a couple of new areas to explore, some new weapons, and a night mode. And overall it's enjoyable, but the missions are the same fetch quest types like in the first game, and I'm kind of tired of the gameplay loop. Vertigo 2 released on PC, and it should be coming to PSVR 2 in the future. This game is excellent, and probably my game of the year so far. It's an adventure shooter with excellent gameplay mechanics and some of the best VR guns in VR. I did make a separate video about this. My only real complaints are some brutal difficulty spikes in the game, mostly at boss fights, and I wish the movement speed was faster or it had a sprint button, which I think would help with some of those difficulty sections. It's a great game overall though, and it took me over 14 hours to get to the end boss. In April, we had A Medieval VR. This came out for PC and Quest with PSVR 2 planned later. This is a retro style shooter which has a non-VR version, and it just had a port released which has good VR support. It's like an old school Heretic style game where you use magic to fire projectiles with melee weapons. If you like retro shooters, you'll love this. In May, another Fisherman's Tale released for all platforms. I absolutely love this game from start to finish. It's an incredibly creative puzzle game where you have to remove and sometimes swap your hands and legs for different types. You can walk your hands around to grab stuff from a distance, and it's also got a great story with some cool musical sections. Propagation Paradise Hotel released on PC and Quest, and it's coming to PSVR later. This is the scariest VR game I've ever played. It has a really well done atmosphere, good graphics, scary zombies that are actually a real threat. I made a video on me playing this because it was the only way to force myself to actually play more of it, and I haven't been back to it since. Maybe I need to record the rest just to force myself to finish it. Humanity released on PSVR 2 and on PC. This is a non-VR puzzle game that also has VR support. The VR support is basic, it plays exactly the same in and out of VR, but it's one of the best puzzle games I've ever played. It starts out as a simple Lemmings type game, but evolves into much more with real-time strategy elements, stealth levels, and boss fights, and it's an absolute treat to play in or out of VR. Firmament is another non-VR game with VR support that released in May. It's another adventure puzzle game from the developers of Myst. Reviews are currently mixed, and not just because of VR. It's a bit buggy and it's got performance issues, so I'm waiting for some patches before checking it out. In June, we had Undead Citadel on PC, PSVR version is coming later. Reviews are mixed, which is basically how I feel about it. I want to like it, but the combat feels a little floaty. The graphics don't look as good in the headset as I expected, and the sound design is very poor, with enemies not making any sounds as they walk, so you end up getting stabbed in the back. The developers have said that they're going to patch and improve the game, so I'm waiting to see how it develops before playing more. Pixel Ripped 1978 launched on all platforms, and I'm not personally a retro gamer, and I didn't really enjoy the previous games in the series, so it's not for me, but the reviews are positive, so if you enjoyed the other Pixel Ripped games, you're going to enjoy this one. Battle Talent released on PC and Quest. This is a procedural, roguelike dungeon crawler. Personally puts me off playing it, but the reviews are positive, and the combat looks very fast and rewarding. It uses physics similar to Blade and Sorcery, and has some really nice movement. Hubris just launched for PSVR 2 and Quest, a game that released back on PC last year. This game is very high-end visually, it's got some great production values like mocap's facial animations, and it has some nice little set moments, but overall, the gameplay was just okay. They have made improvements for the PSVR 2 version, so hopefully the gameplay feels better and more satisfying now. With the launch of PSVR 2, we had a bunch of new VR game releases. As I mentioned before, I haven't got a PSVR 2 yet, but the games that I want to play on it are Gran Turismo 7, Resident Evil 8 VR, Horizon Call of the Mountain, and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge Enhanced Edition. I'm also hoping that we see some enhanced ports of original PSVR 1 games, like Blood and Truth and Astrobot, as those games could be enough to get me to buy a PS5 and PSVR 2. Upcoming games for this year include Crossfire Sierra Squad, which is coming in August for PC and PSVR 2. This looks good visually, and the gunplay looks fun. It's got single player and co-op stuff, and it makes a change to have a shooter where you don't kill zombies. Synapse is coming July to PSVR 2. The gameplay looks good, but I don't like roguelites, so it's not for me personally. Assassin's Creed Nexus VR is coming this year to Quest. Hopefully it's a timed exclusive, but the trailer was CGI, so I want to see some in-game footage before I share my opinion, but I'm hoping that it's going to be good. I Expect You to Die 3 is coming this summer to all platforms. I did enjoy the first two, and hopefully I will enjoy the third. Stride Fates is a single player campaign for the VR parkour game which has been in early access for a while. I really like the movement in this game, so I'm looking forward to a story-driven campaign to play through. Arashi Castles of Sin Final Cut is a PSVR exclusive that's now coming to all platforms with an enhanced version. The trailer was CGI, so I want to see some updated gameplay footage, but it has massive potential. Madison VR is a port of the Flat game coming to PC and PSVR 2. It's a horror game, so that's going to be fun. The cool thing about this one is that it uses a Polaroid camera, which I think will be a great fit for VR. Asgard's Wrath 2 was announced for Quest. The first game was great, but it had repetitive combat. The sequel is set to improve on the combat, but is a big step down visually, and boasting 60 hours of gameplay isn't that appealing to me, because it means that it will be full of grind and bloat like most AAA open world games. Bulletstorm VR is coming to all platforms. I was literally talking about this game in a video about VR guns recently, and how good a fit the energy leash would be, and then it gets announced for VR. Bulletstorm is an older shooter with a cool focus on stylish kills, and you get an energy leash that you can use on the environment and enemies. This should be really fun in VR. Stranger Things VR is coming to all major platforms, and it will have you play as Vecna, who was the bad guy from the final series of the TV show. I really love the art style for this, and I think having the player play as the bad guy with superpowers could be really interesting. The Seventh Guest, a remake of the old CD-ROM game from the 90s, is coming to all major VR platforms, and it looks really good. This really interests me because it's using volumetric recording of the actors, so they should look photorealistic, and it's all wrapped up in a spooky mystery that you have to solve. Vampire: The Masquerade Justice is coming to PSVR 2 and Quest. No news on a PC version yet. This looks great, with you playing as a vampire, so you get powers, and it's got a real Dishonored vibe to the movement and environments. Ghostbusters: Rise of the Ghost Lord is confirmed for PSVR 2 and Quest later this year. It's got 4-player co-op with proton packs and ghost traps, which could be fun, although I'm not personally a fan of the way it looks, as they seem to have gone for a cartoonish style, probably to get it running on the Quest. Power Wash Simulator is coming to Quest, with no other platforms announced yet. I really don't get this game. I've got a driveway that someone can come and power wash if they want, and I won't even charge them for it. Arizona Sunshine 2 got announced for all platforms. It's a sequel to one of the very first proper VR games with a story and campaign. This time, you've got a dog as a companion, there's no gameplay footage yet, and I'm hoping that we still have the co-op mode. Resident Evil 4 VR mode is in development for PSVR 2. This has now been confirmed to be the full story playable in VR. I really can't wait for this one. TOS is coming in September for PC and Quest, and you play it as a gorilla using your arms to throw yourself across levels to try and reach the end. Out of Hand is another similar style game that looks really fun. This has only been confirmed for the Quest at the moment, but I do really like the look of it. And that's all the games that I know of that caught my eye. Let me know if I missed any. And overall, I think that this year has been good for VR, with lots of new hardware and lots of good games released or on the way. It feels like it's finally warming up again after a couple of slower years, and I'm looking forward to what else we have to come. As always, thanks for watching the video, and thank you for your support.